Oh, hey there. It's Valkrin, guys. So I have a recurring question or general questions about what actually makes success in solo queue. And this video is going to be kind of a guideline that breaks down the actual subcategories of the topics that actually give you the most success in solo queue. We'll have some discussion on the perception of what players actually believe makes them succeed in solo queue versus what actually probably makes players succeed in solo queue. We'll start with the top questions that I get when I'm asked on YouTube or on my Twitch stream. Should I build X item on champion? What are the runes for this game? What are the masteries for this game? Do you have any general tips for me to get to diamond? But the really big question is what actually makes you succeed in a game. And I have three different sections made up in this pie chart on the left-hand side: mechanics, game knowledge, and social skills. The pie chart on the right side is a subcategory of the game knowledge pie chart on the left-hand side. Let's focus on the left-hand side for right now. So as you can see, mechanics and game knowledge take up majority of it, but social skills still takes up a pretty decent portion on the pie chart, probably more than most people would suspect. Yes, in solo queue, you actually need to have some etiquette with dealing with other players, and that goes under social skills. You need to be able to handle the trolls. You need to be able to handle the teammates that don't want to work as a team, and you have to be able to still win because it's a team-based game. You can't just give up because so-and-so on your team isn't doing what you would expect. You simply just have to adapt to each given game, and that's what solo queue is all about, guys. It's all about succeeding when all odds are against you. When all odds are against you, you're trying to succeed. When you have DCs, when you have crazy stuff going on, you're still trying to succeed. Okay, so on the right-hand side, this is a subcategory of game knowledge. Item builds, decision-making, and runes and masteries. Decision-making, in my opinion, is greater than the item builds and runes and masteries. This is why you see challenger-level players and high-ranked players overall. When they smurf and play in a lower bracket of play, they can typically build whatever they want and take whatever runes and masters they want and still win the game, because decision-making, the subcategory of game knowledge, I believe has a greater impact than the item builds and runes and masters. Decision-making would go into the categories of how to actually execute these mechanics, like when to go in, freezing a lane versus pushing a lane, what lanes to gank as a jungler, where to ward, and how to play around objectives and stuff like that. Decision making, very important. Now, why am I talking about this in general? Well, perceived impact on the game versus the actual impact on the game. And the right hand pie chart is what I believe a lot of people think about or actually believe goes on during a game, or what actually makes success in a game. And the left hand side is a little bit more accurate depiction of what probably makes up success of the game knowledge side of League of Legends and solo queue. So on the right-hand side, we see an overestimation of the impact of runes, masters, and item builds compared to the left-hand side. This is typically what you see in Twitch chat when you see a streamer or someone like that succeeding. You see them immediately asking about the item builds, the runes, and masteries, but you don't see a whole lot of discussion about the decision-making that the player in that game made to succeed. Just because you're copying the runes and masteries and item builds of a pro player, it's not going to suddenly make you start winning more games. It might slightly help you, and I'm not trying to downplay the fact that runes and masteries and item builds, they do have an impact on the game. But what I'm trying to get across here is decision-making has a greater impact, in my opinion, than the item builds and runes and masteries. As long as you're getting the ballpark in there, right, guys? Like you're playing Zed and you're building AD-type items. The difference between that and the other item builds will still be, possibly give you some success if you're changing up your item builds when you need to. But if you're getting the ballpark of the right items to build, like you're not building AP on Zed and stuff like that, you're going to have a greater success by adapting your decision making and improving your decision making than focusing so much on always checking Mobifier guides and stuff like that for item builds and runes and masteries. I promise you guys, if you improve your decision making, it becomes less relevant what runes and masters and item builds you take. I promise you, it really does. So moving into a more specific category and putting it all together, what to really focus on when you're watching someone else and when you're trying to improve at the game, you need to be asking yourself questions based around the decision making of that game. It's hard to emulate mechanics, right? Mechanics, it's a part of the game of actually executing those skill shots and whatnot. And to an extent, you can get a little bit better by watching someone else do it. You can pick up a few tricks here and there. But overall, when you're watching someone else, focus on the decision making of what they're actually doing, why they're doing it. So for lane decision making, why did they push that lane? Did they get away with it? Did they get punished for it? Did they do it for lane control? Was there jungle pressure put against them? Or could they do it because the enemy jungler was Warwick, and that's a jungler that has low pressure early on? Was it because of the lane matchup? Keep asking yourself these questions. Critical thinking is key when trying to evaluate why a very high-level player made a certain decision. And if you want to emulate it in a future game, you have to kind of understand why they did that in that current game. So how were they trading in lane? Why they were trading in lane when they did? How were they able to roam successfully when they did roam, and when they did not roam successfully, why was that? This, jungle decision making. How were those ganks successful? Was it the timing? Was it just the execution of hitting the skill shots? Was that all that was needed at that point in time? Why were they top side of the map anyways? What buff did the jungler start? All of these small decisions have an impact on the game. These are all questions that you can ask yourself. There's so many more questions you can ask yourself. These are just a basic example guideline that you can use to question the line of thought that a lot of pro players use, and you can eventually start using yourself once you've understood how to correctly evaluate a pro player. But that's for another video, guys. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to check out my stream today, twitch.tv/Valkrin. We'll be streaming again all night. See you guys there.